Hello, Webs. With all the wars that are going on, I thought I would go first for post-traumatic stress disorder. First thing, you can't really self-diagnose post-traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD. You need a specialist, a doctor, or a psychologist to find out if you actually have it. If you experience a traumatic event, you cannot have PTSD until 30 days after the event, because what you're having before is an acute reaction to trauma, which is a very different thing. In post-traumatic stress disorder, there are some certain symptoms, which is intrusive thoughts, nightmares, and flashbacks of the event, avoidance of reminders of trauma, hypervigilance, and sleep disturbance. Those lead to social, occupational, and interpersonal dysfunction. The first line of treatment is psychotherapy. It is not medicine. As much as I would like to say you can take medicine and fix it right away, no. The first line of treatment should be psychotherapy. Medicine is just second line, is when the psychotherapy seems not to be working or is unavailable. PTSD ends up being very related to violence, not to things you didn't like in your life, like not passing an exam. It's usually violence. Other things can have been not good in your life, but unless you have the symptoms or PTSD, you do not have PTSD. You may be influenced by the trauma. What is factors that make it more likely? The history of trauma, lower education level, lower socioeconomic status, trauma and abuse in childhood, personal and family psychiatric history, gender, race, lack of social support, and especially physical injury, as well as the severity of reaction to the traumatic event. PTSD can also happen after myocardial infarction or stroke or intensive care unit stay. The symptoms are, well, first you need to have had a traumatic event, especially participation in war. Then the other symptoms are intrusion symptoms, avoidance symptoms, and negative alterations in cognition or mood, as well as arousal or reactivity changes. You can also have things like depersonalization, derealization, which the first one means that somebody feels disconnected from their body, and the second one, feeling that the world is not real. I should make a separate video about that. PTSD happens also more in people with personality disorders and with somatic symptoms, and they also lead to a few medical comorbidities. In fact, they are linked to cardiovascular and pulmonary diseases. So you shouldn't smoke weed. The usual questions asked to assess for PTSD are: how do you feel when you recall the event? Do you experience dreams or flashbacks about it? Do you find avoiding people or activities you associate with the event? Do you find yourself forgetting occurrences from that period? And do you find yourself looking carefully around when you're in a public place? This, of course, needs to be assessed by a psychologist or a doctor, somebody who knows about these things. People can have PTSD by experiencing the event, by witnessing it, or by learning about it, or experiencing extreme exposure to the event. Extreme exposure is not through electronic media. I will not make this too long or complicated, but if you think you have PTSD, you have to see a psychologist. That is the first line of therapy. And it's usually, unfortunately, a chronic condition, but it can become much, much better if you actually go to a psychologist. Bye-bye.